it again. See if you could.
I just going to screw everything up.
Nail it
on
again.
Purpose.
You know, it's like impossible to say exactly the same thing.
Oh yeah, it's already gone. Once it comes out of my mouth, it's.
How far? I could probably get like the first 2 sentences, and that's it.
No, like even if you were, we did it in a class one time where it's like, even if you're talking about yourself, do like word by word.
Well, we are hopefully live this time on Facebook. So if you guys are watching or listening and have questions for the hosts here at Save for the Blind podcast, please leave them on our Facebook page and we will answer them as they come in. We also have a couple other people at the table with us. One of them is Brad Isbell. He's the Director of Communications. He's got some questions that were somehow created by ChatGPT. So we'll see where these go. And then, Brad, if you want to introduce the other lady across from us who's going to be asking questions as well.
Yeah, this is Stephanie Morgan. She is our newest acquisition or member of the marketing department. We are very excited to have her. This was actually her idea, so thank you very much. Tip the cap that I'm not wearing.
And she now has her hunting license. Did you do it? Did you
Yes.
complete
She
it?
does. She has
nice.
completed hunter education.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yep. So now she has a very easy way into doing some hunting. Maybe here's a segue. We can get her out to do a turkey hunt. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, we just finished a pretty cool how-to series, the expansion of the how-to series, which is our digital mentor series for new and intermediate level hunters, all about turkeys. We talk turkey with Kevin Vela and go through about 7 different turkey calls.
Yeah, he had a lot.
He did.
He's skilled.
Yeah. There's a passion there.
And we did end up with 2 or 3 turkeys outside the window, which we were all pretty excited about. We were hoping we could get them into the building, but no such luck.
Yeah. But yeah, that stuff will roll out the week of opening general turkey season. So we're super excited to expand on the how-to series, and it'll be a great addition for anyone that's has hunted turkeys for a long time or getting into turkey hunting. We'll go over kind of A to Z on that.
I would like to say hello to Benji, Bob, and Gary, who are watching us currently live.
Oh,
Benji, Bob, and Gary.
Yeah.
What's
the
up,
first,
Benji?
the first live viewers for our Save for the Blind podcast. So hopefully we're going to do this in the future. This is kind of a impromptu test run, but we're going to see where it goes, and hopefully this is something that the viewers will want to see more of, where you guys can ask questions on the spot, and we can give you the answers, or hopefully give you the answers that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yes, so we have Jeff and Carson, as many of you guys probably know, who have many, many functions at CWA. Currently, they are also the CWA podcast hosts, the Save It for the Blind hosts. And after doing 23 episodes so far and counting, we thought it might be time to learn a little bit more about these hosts. And so thanks to the lovely people at ChatGPT, which is not real people, I don't believe, we have come up with some questions.
Believe that they're real people?
I don't know. What's up, Sheik? We have another person to the group. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and shoot them out. While we're doing this, though, we are going to throw a few robot-inspired questions. And I'll start off with one. What sparked your interest in duck hunting? How did you get started?
You can take that one first. You can take
Yeah,
that one
so
first.
for me, it was my dad was a big duck hunter growing up, and I had an older brother that was 4 years older than I am, and I was just always tagging along. So my earliest memory is like 3 years old, being at a duck club and sleeping in the trailer. And I remember my dad took my brother out, and I was back at the trailer with my mom and my sister, and I was like, well, when's dad gonna, this is before cell phones, like, when's dad gonna come pick me up? When's dad gonna come pick me up? So I was always into it as very, very young kid, and then basically shot everything I could with a BB gun or pellet gun, like every day after school, quail hunting, all that good
legally,
stuff.
Yeah, only
taken.
approved game.
Yeah, so I was. So there were, my mom. She opened up the freezer. I'm probably 8 years old at this point. She opened up the freezer, and there was like 10 quail in the freezer that I had came home from school, did my chores, shot a quail, cleaned it, and put it in the freezer. And then she was like, "What are all these quail doing here?" I was like, "Oh, I shot them." And she's like, "We need to eat them all."
Yeah.
You know, obviously. And so then we cooked them, but that was like my daily routine. Just go out. And start hunting after school with
Nice.
a pellet gun.
I want to say hello to Michael and Brandon, Joe, and Bob. Welcome to the live streaming of the Save It for the Blind podcast.
Yeah.
about you, Carson? What got you into duck hunting?
Same thing. Grew up family oriented, hunting through my dad and my grandpa as well. And earliest memories were always into duck blind. I'd always be interested in, you go out before the season, you pull the lid off the tank, what's going to be in there. I was catching snakes and frogs and bringing the BB gun out to shoot the decoys, but just kind of rolled into there to actually hunting. And then I was much more living in the city than Jeff was, so I didn't have the opportunity just to go out back and shoot what I wanted. So when I turned 16, I had my license, and I skipped many a days of school to go over to the old YOLO Bypass Refuge. And I did the same thing in college, skipped lots of classes in college, and still ended up with a biology degree. And so, balance, I guess, is where it comes to balance.
You had to work your schedule out.
Yeah.
On Wednesdays, just no class.
When you have biology degree, you don't have that much. You got labs. You don't have that much flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've established your degree is probably the highest level. At least I don't know.
It depends on what you consider a high level.
Yeah.
What's your degree in?
Business.
There you go.
Bachelor of Business. What do you? Yours is in biology.
Yeah.
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 So
What's Jeff's in?
We're all state colleges here, so let's
You
not
s-
get
I feel
ahead
like
of ourselves.
rec and leisure studies might be your jam. Am I right?
In natural resource management. Yeah.
Okay. What is that? Like propane? It's my first thought of natural resources.
Working for BLM doing gas? No. Basically, it's to run national parks, essentially.
Nice.
So we're just one big national park.
Well, it's a very odd combination because I've actually used a lot of my degree in what we do here in terms of property management, but then the recreational side of hunting and trails and working with the public. So, yeah, going into it, I was a construction management major. And at the time, I was just kind of burnt out to go to school. I just wanted to go to work in construction, and I almost quit school. And my wife was like, no one regrets like finishing college. And I was like really close, so I switched degrees. And just something that was going to bring me in the outdoors. And yeah, I'm pretty darn lucky, but I've been able to use my degree actually in every part of my career, which I would have never have thought that.
It's funny because I have the biology degree and I say the exact opposite. I don't use my degree for anything. If I was a biologist, I would, but I got my, training in the School of Hard Knocks at Chico State, learning how to talk to people that I don't know. And it seems like that's the biggest thing that's been able to carry me through my job is having conversations and meeting people and creating relationships.
Yeah. Unlike Sac State.
Yeah.
Brad.
Stingers
hurts.
down.
Yeah.
You know what? I got through school very quickly and efficiently because there was not a lot of exciting stuff. So I was there,
Yeah.
went to class, went to work.
And with a degree in what?
My degree is in intercultural communication studies and a minor in marketing.
So,
Yeah.
So your minor's
Public speaking was pretty much all I had to do.
Gotcha.
A lot of football players in my classes. And Sac State's got a pretty good football team. How is Chico's football team these days?
undefeated still.
It's been what,
Thank you
20
very much.
Can't win if you
It's been like 20 something years.
can't lose
Have
if you don't
not
have a
lost
team.
a game.
Really good run. Yeah, great run.
That's all right. That's all right. I want to say hello to Adrian and Parmilla as well. Thank you for joining us live. We will get on to the next question. Can you share a memorable experience? Again, these are questions from the robots, ChatGPT,
Yeah.
who may or may not take my job one day.
And if you're listening and you have questions, leave them on the Facebook
Yep.
Live and we'll answer them. So
Yep.
we're just pulling questions right now from ChatGPT. But if you guys have questions of your own, please leave them.
You're getting old, man. You just called it the Facebook.
I talked to the Zuck and he told me it was the Facebook.
All right, so tell me about what a memorable experience was for you.
In the duck blind?
Yeah,
Gosh, I just have so many.
you get one.
Yeah, that's tough.
I remember vividly hunting with my dad and my brother, and both of them were missing and like couldn't shoot anything. And I was just like, my dad let my brother shoot a 410 before he got his hunting license and didn't let me. And I was like chomping at the bit. And I was like, I could shoot those ducks. No, like the whole morning, I could shoot those ducks. And like finally, he's like, no, you can't. And you're not going to shoot. I was like, oh, all bummed. But I always brought my pellet rifle with me to shoot muskrats or whatever. But super, super stormy, snowy day, and we're in the boat. And
Where were you at location in the state?
Northeastern.
Okay.
Yeah. Shasta County, put it that way. And they just couldn't hit anything and went through boxes of shells, and we ended up with like 4 or 5 birds. And it was super cold, but I just remember like that vividly of like just getting denied of, hey, let me borrow Colby's gun. My dad was like, no, not happening.
So it's fair to say you're competitive.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm learning.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well,
Yeah.
he grew up with an older brother, so
Yeah, so there's definitely that, right? Where it's like in sports and whatnot, I always was 4 years younger than my brother and all of his friends. So I always played, it's called playing up or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think that made me a better athlete in the end. But yeah, I played sports for a long time, and I'm not like competitive in terms of like hunting where it's like, oh, we shot
Yeah.
21. In my opinion, it's like, yeah, if you're good at something, you don't have to showboat. I
A little brother
just-
rivalry is always
Yeah,
good.
but you know me, I'm a fairly humble person for the
You're a
most
very
part.
humble person. That's why I'm saying
I
this.
don't. It is what it is. Some days you're going to be in the right spot, and it has nothing to do with skill or anything like that.
yeah.
Want to say hello to Brian Huber, one of our own, is watching us.
Oh,
Hello, Mr. Birdiologist.
Bring him back.
Long time no see.
Maybe the Birdiologist will have a question for the CWA team.
Ooh, yeah.
Also, Kevin and Roy, welcome in.
Nice. What about you?
Yeah, what about you, Carson?
The one that I could think of off the top of my head, it was a preseason junior hunt in Lower Klamath, back when there was water, and
Long time ago.
a long time ago. And it was right after shoot time, and I was shooting really good, and it was like a double, another double. My dad's going to get decoy or the ducks in the water, and he goes, "You got 6 hen gadwall. Do you want to wait for a mallard?" And I said, "Nope." And shot the next one. It was 7 hen gadwall in 15 minutes, and we got out of there. And I'll never forget that because he came back. He goes, "Do you want to wait?" I said, "Uh-uh."
Yeah.
And 7 hen gadwall, Lower Klamath.
That
I still
reminds
remember
me of a hunt. End of the year. It's been a long season, and it's like the last day or two of the season. And my brother were like, "Hey, let's go out in the afternoon for one more hunt." And my brother's like, "No, I'm done. I'm gonna go get a haircut."
Who gets a haircut then?
And I was always the more of the duck hunter. My brother really loved to fish, but we hunt a lot together. But I was like, "A haircut, dude? Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
So me and my dad go out, and we were done. It was one of those days where it's like you're setting the decoys out, and the birds are coming in, and we didn't have the boat set up. And I've almost done with my limit. My dad's like stuck in the mud with his waders. We get him out. He shoots his limit. Same type of deal, like 15 minutes. We're back home, boat unloaded, cleaning birds. By the time my brother gets back from cutting his haircut, and he's like, "What happened? You guys didn't go?" We're like, "No, we went." It was like the most epic hunt ever. And he's like, "No way." We're like, "Dude, it was unreal. Just one of those days that you just never know until you go."
Yeah.
You know, and that was pretty memorable.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have those days. I've got visions of being in Lower Klamath and watching a snowstorm come. We had a few ducks at that point. You could just see the wall of white. And it was just coming and coming and coming. And as soon as that snow hit, it was just like the ducks were just like in
Yeah.
it somehow, and they just showed up, and it was just lights out.
Hunting in the snow is just.
I
the
wish I did it
coolest-
more.
Yeah, if there's snow on the ground or while it's snowing, it's just so quiet and just almost like surreal.
Or if you're out there on the ice and you have the only open water around, and you know any duck that flies by is going to come into your little open hole.
Well, that's where I miss down here in the Sac Valley. You don't get the weather and the conditions.
The real weather.
Which is, to me, that type of stuff is fun.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, hunting in the snow and all that. The conditions. It makes for a different experience,
Didn't we have a tornado issue, and wasn't it just outside of Davis?
It seems
Recently?
like we've had some tornado warnings
bring it
and
on.
whatnot.
Getting nuts. So I have a question. This is people probably don't know this, but Stephanie lived in Australia for 12
Yeah, 12 years.
12 years. I've asked this question, but I think I'm probably not alone in thinking this. I envision Crocodile Dundee when I think of everything Australia. What are some things that people may
A knife.
Yeah, you call that
This is
a
a
knife?
knife.
What are some misconceptions that Americans should know about Australians?
I don't know about misconceptions, but I think that it's not. It depends on what part of Australia you go to. So parts of Australia are very similar to what you see here, probably especially California. Other parts, you go more north, and it definitely gets more Australian in terms of what an American might think of Australia when it comes to like the tropical rainforest, the crocs coming out on like the beaches while you're there, or the plants that can kill you, the spiders that can kill you, the snakes that can kill you.
Crocodiles come out and join you on the beach?
Oh yeah. So I was up in Cairns one time, and they were like, just if you go to the beach, like just be aware of your surroundings, because you never know when a croc is gonna like come up. Because right there they have the beach or like the ocean comes into like freshwater, and so they've got both freshwater and saltwater crocs that like come into that area. I'm no expert, but
Wild.
it is pretty wild.
Is that like brackish water?
Technically, I mean, yeah.
I would not be swimming in there.
The one thing I
didn't.
still don't understand, and when I was in Australia, I talked to some Australians about it. The camels that are in the outback.
There's more camels there. There's some stat about the camels in Australia.
Yeah,
That's
there's more
wild.
camels in Australia than in like the Middle East.
I did not know that.
I didn't even know there's camels there, and
I
there's
don't know
running
what's
wild.
going on. Are they were obviously brought there?
I believe
think
so.
so.
Yeah, and it's up in
I
like
don't
more
know.
like the Northern Territory.
Okay.
But there's just like
Top of
camels
Australia.
everywhere just walking around.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No
Do they
one's- no one's
actually
riding them?
barbecue shrimps?
Yeah.
Is that a saying there?
Do you only
don't-
drink Foster's?
I want to say hello to Howard and David, Jason, and Zoya, as well as Brent and another Brad. All right.
Two
All right.
Brads.
Welcome to the group.
There you go.
All right. Well, we'll get back to questions from the robots. The next one is, what do you believe sets successful duck hunters apart from the rest? And this
Oh,
is
that's actually a
probably
really good
This is a
question.
juicy one.
Jeez, chatbot.
Yeah.
Personally, you have to be a good shot to be successful, or you need a lot of opportunities to get a limit. But I think most successful hunters, like, they're just good at being still, because you don't have to be a good duck caller. You just have to be in the right area.
There's two things that come to my mind, and it's location. You can't beat location
no,
if you're in the right spot,
yeah.
and experience. I know.
Well, define experience. 'Cause
Well,
you could be.
So here's
You could have hunted 50 years.
Yeah,
and-
here's my preface on that.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of people that have hunted a long time and aren't the best duck hunters, but
Yeah.
the people that take the information they're given when they're out there and actually use it to make themselves better, that kind of experience,
Yeah.
those hunters end up becoming the ones that kill, 90% of the birds get harvested by 10% of the hunters, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
But using the experience, what you did wrong and what you did right to become a better hunter, that I guess it's that mental ability really turns people to that next level.
Yeah, it's not trying to figure out the game. Every day is different. So if the birds are flaring today, trying to figure out why they're flaring. All right, take the mojo down. Let's move that. Some people are just like, oh, it sucks. It's 8
We'll come
o'clock.
back out tomorrow. Hopefully it changes.
We'll leave. And that's their jam, right? So no knock to them, but got to be a student.
I've got a question on the back of that.
I like it.
So for someone like myself who has never hunted before,
Yeah.
I've shot, but I've never actually gone and hunted. What advice would you give to me as a new, fresh hunter?
Who just finished her hunter's education?
Who just
Yeah.
finished my hunter's education.
Find a good mentor.
Find a mentor for sure. Yeah, there's just so many learning curves there. Do some research, read some stuff. I mean, with the internet now and books and all that, there's a lot there. But essentially, you need someone to show you around for the first time or two. In my opinion, lots of people go out and do it their own. And like, I take myself turkey hunting, right? Me and my brother, we never turkey hunted with our dad or whatever, and we just figured it out on our own. And you have some very unsuccessful trips, but you learn from that. And then after a season, you're like, all right, we figured it out. Don't walk around when you got a bird gobbling. Stay still, or if you hear a bird gobbling, just stay there.
Sit longer than you
Patience.
think, kind of thing.
Yeah, where it's like coming from the duck hunting world, like you move around and okay, the birds aren't coming, I'm gonna go walk over there or whatever. And turkey world is completely different. But it's like one of those things where it just goes back to the learning curve, right?
Sure.
You're just learning.
So we got our first question from the live feed.
Oh, history.
Yeah.
Put it on a frame. We'll put it up in the
Yeah,
podcast.
put it on the
studio.
wall.
Yeah. So Benji would like to know,
Oh, thanks, Benji.
what was y'all's worst? I'm reading exactly how it's written.
Yeah.
What was y'all's worst hunting experience? And if you say the time that I joined you and Eli joined you here, we're going to be offended because that was a decent day.
Worst hunting experience.
I've had some pretty rough, physically demanding hunting experiences that didn't result in any ducks. And there's a refuge, an unnamed refuge, where there can be a walk to a spot that is upwards of 3.5 miles each direction. And when you walk that far, carrying pounds and pounds of gear, and you get to that spot, and there is no water in that spot like they had shown on the map at the check station headquarters, it doesn't end up being a good day when your round trip is 7 miles and you don't even take your gun out of your case.
Yeah.
That one right off the top of my head hurts. That one's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I have some experiences within the hunt of like not being the greatest, but I can't think of like a terrible time that I've had.
You ever forget waders or shells?
Actually, I forgot my waders this year, but unfortunately,
How'd that work out?
You're getting old.
Well, I went there and I opened the container because I had left a pair in there and I had taken them out onto my truck because they were wet. But luckily, I had a pair just down the road, so I went there and grabbed them, and everything was fine. But I did forget my waders this year, which was
That's never a good day.
no, but never have forgotten my gun or anything like that.
That wouldn't be ideal.
No. I did forget it on the top of my toolbox, and I was in the middle of Yuba City, and another hunter pulled up to me. He's like,
No way.
Right
Never
here.
fell off.
no. And I looked back in my gun case because I took my waders off, put my gun on the gun case on the top of my toolbox,
Yeah.
and put everything in the bed. And I just didn't grab it and was in a hurry. And yeah, it was still on my toolbox. And he was like, "Hey, dude." And I was like,
Oh,
That could have been bad.
"Yeah, could have lost that." But,
It could have been bad. I will say that I got really excited in our hunt, and it took a few, times where you called the birds in, and I missed wildly, which makes sense. And then I got excited after I did get that green head, and then I got more excited when you guys called more in and forgot to reload the gun,
oh yeah,
and just, all right, Brad, here we go, coming in, and whoops.
I think I did
No
that
bullets.
twice this year at our club, and in the not reloading during the hunt, but just in the morning, never loaded my gun. It was the first up of the day. I was ready to take him, and I'm like looking at my gun while it's not going off. It's like, wow, been
Yeah.
doing this for 20 years, and I still forget to load my gun sometimes in the morning.
All right, I got another one. We ready?
Yeah, bring it on.
I got David. Welcome in, David. Thank you for your question. What is your go-to decoy spread? Do you use confidence decoys like Coots?
that's a great question. I have used some confidence decoys like swans, where there are lots of swans in our current locations. There's not, so I've never used egrets and things like that. It just really depends on where we're going. Like if I'm going to a refuge, it's probably 3 dozen decoys, pintails, widgeon, mallard, teal, with a lot of motion. I would say 3 dozen on the max. But if I'm hunting like the Sacramento River, I'm going mostly mallards and a couple widgeon. you
Yes, I kind of do quasi decoy spread. So I used to hunt the refuges a lot, and my favorite thing was to get as far away from people as I could and try to find little pockets with mallards in it. And so what I always teach people is kind of the fly fishing method of thought, where it's like match the hatch, where what you see is what you should put out. So a lot of times I'd be jumping pairs of mallards out of little potholes, and I tell people I've killed more ducks with 2 decoys on a jerk string, no spinning, just
Yeah. motion,
small spread, than a lot of people probably imagine that you can kill with 2 decoys, because 2 decoys, that's it. And it's like, that's what they see. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, well, you and I had a hunt together a couple years ago where there was a bunch of specks in an area, and
Oh, yeah,
they would not finish at all. They would just hang up, buzz
Well, you
out,
probably had
hang
a
up,
dozen
buzz
to
out.
start.
Yeah,
dozen
we had like
decoys
a
out?
dozen floaters.
Yep.
Yeah. Not happening. And we were like, let's just pull everything except for like, what do we have, 2 or 1?
Because we knew they wanted to be in that area,
'cause
but they were just getting wigged
They were
out.
giving us the body language like they wanted to be there, right? So that's just one of those things about hunting a long time. So we're like, let's pull everything. We pulled I think we left a duck decoy or 2 on a jerk
Yeah.
string, and then we had like 2 speck decoys. And the next group was way up there, yelled at them, and they just came straight down. We looked at each other like, that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
Just that simple thing. And I think a lot of people would probably be like, we need more decoys, right? But they were hooking on the decoys, and they just didn't like it and buzzed out. But when there was just 2 of them, they came right in.
Yeah, there's so many times when you can have birds reacting incorrectly to decoys, and most of the time the correct answer is pull a lot of them, because if they're looking and they're in the area,
Yeah.
you know, they're finding something's wrong. So why put out more things that could potentially be wrong? You know, we're not throwing out live ducks. We're
Yeah.
throwing out what we think they like, but
Yeah, and when we've called in a ton of like specs, singles, and doubles with no decoys, because they're looking for the call, and then you put out, hey, let's bring some spec decoys, and you put out the spec spread, and the single's like, nope, that ain't it. You know,
Yeah.
but if sometimes when they're looking for that sound, it actually is in your benefit.
yeah, my favorite still is just the paramount decoys on a refuge in a small pothole and just sucking them in. But
Yeah.
it also goes back, you know, if I get a draw at the beginning of the year when birds are used to seeing birds in big numbers, I will go out and throw out, you know, 30, 40 decoys because that's what they're used to seeing.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, those birds are starting to get paired up. There's just pairs here and there. You're not seeing the big groups of 40,
And
50.
you're typically hunting by yourself in those little spots.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah.
Well, that was pretty good answer. I have a question again from the robot world. I actually think this is what role, kind of pertinent. You guys referenced Mojo. What role does technology play in modern duck hunting? And how do you feel like it's evolved over time?
Well, there's Onyx, there's Google Maps. You could see the aerial view of places of,
What about drones? And seeing the overhead of what your spread looks like nowadays? You couldn't
Oh,
do that before. That's huge.
yeah, and like what the duck blind looks like, you know, things are flaring. So obviously, like anything, if you use the technology to your advantage. You know, it's kind of an interesting fact where people are like, you know, motorized decoys, et cetera, whatever your opinion is on it. But if you go back 50, 60 years ago, there's decoys that are mechanical, that are made out of wood, that bob their head and do all these other things that, you know, it's just easier now. But motion decoys are not anything new. They've been around for a very long time. They might not be as efficient nowadays, but, you know, with a Mojo, I don't know. I tend not to use a Mojo because everyone uses those, and it's that same type of spinning blade or whatever. I use a ton of motion, so people know that. I like my gadgets. Have used a lot, but in my opinion, instead of buying, you know, or bringing out to the refuge 10 dozen decoys, I would rather have a dozen decoys and 8 of those be some type of motion
6
decoy.
pulsators.
Because that's what looks normal. If you look at a pond, birds are constantly moving. And the aerial drone footage that we've done at some of our properties, a lot of the times you see the motion on the water and the muddy water before you see the silhouette of the duck on the water. And to me, it was kind of like a light bulb. It's like they're honing in on the motion first and then looking for the bird. In my opinion, when they're further away, that's what you see, right? But
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. You know, the advancements of technology and this and that.
it was good and bad.
But yeah, how far can you go with it? That's the thing. What's the limit?
Yeah, I don't really. Right, you can't use sound.
They're just reinventing the wheel to a different extent, and
Yeah.
some may make more motion or more flash, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah, and when you get down to tax, right, you got to be in the location that there are birds and where birds want to be.
I have a question about the technology part of it, because I've seen this, and as you guys know, I'm new into the world of hunting. But does all the gadgets and the technology, does that take away from the sport itself as far as the thrill you get from that hunt versus maybe just a gun, a couple of decoys, and a duck call?
For some people, I think it probably does. They're more traditional, and they might not use any motion decoys, etc. Which, if you don't want to, right on. You have that choice.
I think our biggest thrill is the communication between you and the duck via a duck call.
Yeah,
And, you know, seeing that duck react, I think that's where the enjoyment come from. And if those motion decoys help,
yeah, you're
know.
fooling a wild, whatever it is, right? And for it to come within shooting range of you, and you could shoot a nice, clean kill. I mean, that's what you're striving for. So, you know, if you just want to go out and might shoot one bird passing or whatever, then you have that right. I like to do as much as I can to let that bird finish as close as possible. That's where I get my joy, right? Like I took my son Gus out this year, and and I had already shot a pintail and we shot a couple other ducks, and there's like a group of pintail just working, right? You know how pintail do. And I had them up on the stools, like, all right, check this. And they, go out, flip, come right in. And I mean, they're like as high as this grass right over the blind. He looks at me, he's like, that was epic. He's 6. And I start cracking up. I was like, that's pretty cool. But I mean, they were just, you could see their eyeballs. They're just right there. And that part of it's cool,
Brad sitting next to me. I remember in the blind, there was, I don't know if it was,
Started crying.
Basically. Yeah. There was a bird, and I was like, we're going to call that bird in, and you could see it from a long ways off, and it came all the way out and all the way back in, and we ended up killing it. And you looked at me and he goes, that was so cool.
Yeah, I could barely even tell it was a bird. I mean, it was, I could see specks.
Small black dot.
And Carson's like telling me what kind of bird it is, and then he's like, be prepared, about 20 or 30 seconds. It's going to be right here on your northeast side, so be prepared for it. And I'm thinking, I'm watching this thing fly off, and I'm like, oh, no. And then you guys started doing your thing with that duck and working it, and it was there, and I was blown away. I mean, that was the part that I would say as a first-time duck hunter that I was the most in awe of was that part of it. Because, I mean, I went into it, and we'll talk about this in a different episode, but I went into it with a very different opinion and a different idea of what happened, and just thought this was some dudes sitting in a hole. Yeah. And that they, if the ducks happen to fly by or see decoys, then great. And if they don't, and that's probably why I've never caught any fish, because I don't understand the entire process and the artwork behind it.
We're going to change that.
Yes. Yes, we are. You guys have any other questions? I see a bunch of people are in here. Hello, Jeff. I got an Eric and a
Jeff
Justin,
with a J
Jeff,
or a G?
a Mike. It's a Jeff with a J.
The correct way.
Yeah, yep. So we appreciate you guys for watching on here. We will have this as a full episode as well, but we are changing it up a little bit today and doing a live version. And until we get that question, I will go ahead and piggyback back onto the world of ChatGPT. My question is, if you can go into the details of the camaraderie involved in duck hunting, again, we've talked about this when I was with you guys, but the camaraderie and the community aspect of duck hunting, both in person and online, would be something I'd like to hear you guys kind of dive into.
I don't know. From my experience, it's been the great equalizer, right? I mean, you could share a duck blind with a billionaire, right? Mm-hmm. And you're shooting it up, talking about duck hunting and their family and, their life. There's no other place that I'm sitting next to the person like that, and having an intimate conversation with the person and getting to know them. And I think whatever the walk of life that you may come from, there's that camaraderie, that common place in duck hunting that to me is extremely unique that I have not found in turkey hunting. There's some of that in like the deer camps and things like that.
But you just don't have the ability to chat when you're in the actual sport, turkey hunting, deer hunting.
Yeah.
You don't get that option.
But like the deer hunting, if you're on public ground, it's like, there's only so many deer, right? There's only so many good spots. Well, ducks fly around. One day you can have a great hunt. The next day you're in a great spot. They're just not there.
Yeah.
So there's like sharing of information, I think, too. But my experience has just been the common ground with waterfowl hunting has been super unique in getting to know people from all walks of life.
Yeah, I think in the duck blind, I've solved the world's problems and caused them more times than I could think, just with every single person that stepped foot in the blind. I mean, you can just have the best conversations and kind of check out from the reality of what else is going on in your life and have that time to you and whoever your guest is just to connect. And you're out there for the same purpose, so it's the...
And you could have different political views or religion or whatever it may be, and you're hunting ducks and talking ducks, and more people should do that.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, we sat down, Eli and myself and you two, and I feel like going through that experience was very eye-opening and helped that commonality. And it just kind of closes the loophole, if you will, and really helps you figure out what people are about. It helps you see, I got to see you guys in your natural habitat, if you will, and experience a life-altering. I mean, it was an experience that I never thought I'd have, never thought I wanted to have, and now can't imagine not having. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
And the online aspect of it, I think, is what we're dealing with right now, like literally live right now, right? We are talking duck hunting with 15 live viewers going through what decoy spreads, calling, some duck hunting questions about you guys that we've been able to do to expand our reach and impact on our supporters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you guys listening have questions, please feel free to type them in the box. I don't want to have to listen to Chad give me.
Chad.
Did you just mix Chat GPT and Brad and come up with Chad?
Call him
Chad-
Chad. So I'm not giving the robot.
Chad
That's true.
BPT.
I don't want to pay royalties to this.
We got a lot of Chads over here. Maybe we'll
I
call
do
him.
have one from David, and David has an interest. Will there be any calling workshops in the future that we could physically attend? And I know I
talked about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. We had a duck and goose calling clinic for probably about 5 years. We did it at Rancho Escuan. And they were sold out for a number of years, and then we just kind of got busy with other things. So, yeah, I mean, if there's a want, we do the waterfowl clinic with Department of Fish and Wildlife at Grizzly Ranch. But calling specific, obviously, I'm passionate about that, and we have a lot of volunteers that are very knowledgeable in that world as well. So, yeah, great question. I would say we definitely can if there's interest from folks.
Yeah. Well, and locations would be important if it's physical.
Yeah, most likely Grizzly Ranch. It's in Fairfield area. It's kind of central. We have all the facilities there to do big lunch groups. In the summertime, it's usually nice and cool, so that helps out.
That does help. Yeah. I sat in on the one at the ISE show with you.
Yeah.
And I know, like you said, we do duck camps. But I think one way that maybe we could do something similar is what we're doing now, but a duck calling version, where you could do a live stream for people that maybe can't
You'd
attend
have to
physically.
figure out how to not to blow
Yeah,
people's
so, yeah,
eardrums
we don't-
out. That's an Eli question.
I will say, David, if you haven't seen it, we have a 20-minute tutorial from Jeff Smith on all the aspects of duck calling. It's in our How To Mentor series.
No stops either.
No, it was great, except for when I was having to listen to it and editing and get it uploaded, all of a sudden you'd be like, "Hurr," for a minute, and I was like, whoa, I didn't see that one coming. Kind of wake you up out of a sleep.
Yeah.
So, all right. Can you share some tips for scouting locations and reading? I think this probably might be more applicable, but reading duck behavior to help maximize hunting success.
Yeah, the scouting thing is difficult.
In California, especially.
Because you're hunting public land for the most part, or private rice blinds, let's say. The refuges, you can't really go out and scout, right? So you have to almost do your scouting from the parking lot or the road. But what I do, in the Sac Valley is when you're driving around, just figure out where you're seeing the number of birds, like either in the rice or in the closed zones, et cetera. So if you're driving around Sac Refuge and you're just not seeing anything, and then you go over to Gray Lodge or Howard Slough and you're seeing more birds in that area, I think that's an indicator that there's more ducks in that region, since you can't go out and go scout. But like up in Klamath, when you're
Klamath, you can scout.
it's different. It's like
Yeah.
if you've never been to Canada, it's very similar, right? It's public land, but it's vast. You're scouting for birds, and what you look for there is obviously access, if other people are looking at those same birds, trying to get in the field, but just volume of birds is what you're looking for. In my opinion, if you're like in a goose field and the birds are moving very fast through the field as a big group, that means that they're searching for food. There's not a lot of it there. If they're in the field and they're not walking around a ton, but they are eating, but they're eating kind of in that same area, that means there's a lot more food in that field. But if they're sitting in the field and they're walking, north as a big group fast, that means there's not a lot left in there, and you wouldn't want to hunt there because they're not going to be there the next day.
Yeah, I think you nailed that one. I mean, there's not much more to add. It's scouting in California is such a faux pas sometimes because you can't do it on our refuges. So it's like, I can't go out to Delavan the day before my hunt unless it's on a Sunday and I'm going to actively hunt. You have to scout when you hunt. So we don't have the traditional scouting like a lot of other states do, where you can drive around, and our public or our private access is a lot harder to get because the stuff that's already usually good is already locked up by somebody else or a guide or an outfitter. So there's not as much knock and talk opportunity as there is in Canada or other states.
Yep. But I think typically, like if you're in a rice field or if you have a rice lease or whatever, if you're not seeing any birds on the landscape eating, or there's no goose grinds, etc., you just know that there's no birds in that area.
No, 100%.
You know? So to go out there,
You drive out in the morning in your rice field and nothing gets up out of it, and all you hear is crickets.
yeah, you know it's
Could
gonna be
potentially
slow.
be slow.
I don't know. I had one of our best hunts of not my life, but I was taking a friend. It was his first duck hunt ever, college roommate, and we were walking out to a flooded marsh that had flooded, and we had some really good hunts out there. And we're walking out, and like it is crazy. Like no, you don't hear a duck. Like we heard a duck like a quarter mile away.
Okay.
I looked at my brother, and I'm in college at the time. I was like, man, out of all the days we picked to bring, my buddy's name's Jeff too.
Of course it is.
And I go, there's nothing. There's not going to be anything out here. And shooting time came, didn't see a duck. There wasn't a duck. 10 minutes into shooting time, there was more mallards than we'd ever seen. And it was one of the years where you could only shoot 5 mallards.
Yeah.
So we shot 5 mallards, each, all green. Everyone shot a pintail. And we were waiting because everyone needed one more bird. So it was me, my dad, my brother, and my buddy Jeff. And we were waiting for something other than a mallard or a pintail to come in. And at that point in our lives, this was like probably the best hunt I'd ever been on, you know, shooting those types of birds. But walking out there, I thought it was going to be the worst hunt ever. And it was just one of those things. It's just
More than not, it usually is.
yeah, right
but-
place, right time.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah.
So you got lucky.
Yeah.
Well, I would say we got lucky. We were in a good spot, but we got lucky on whatever conditions that day. Just it was wild.
And
Yeah.
if you've hunted long enough, you've had those days where
Didn't
for
expect that.
no reason.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah,
Just
but it was wild. I
no
mean,
rhyme or reason.
We're sitting there and there's just birds landing in the decoys. We couldn't shoot them. Right? We shot. Finally, a group of teal came in. Everyone shot a teal, but like never experienced that again. Like that in that type of year. Right? It was nuts.
Yeah.
Sounds like my golf game. Just one shot that makes you come back. All the rest are not good. Stephanie, what was the coolest animal you came across in the outback?
I don't know if it'd be the coolest, but there was a few hours drive from Melbourne where I lived. There's a place called Phillip Island, and you could go to the beach and then walk this kind of like nature walk. And if you did it at dusk, you would have the wallabies all come out around you, literally, you know, within feet of you, hundreds of them. The first time I did it, I was scared to death because I was like, oh my God, they're going to attack. And like, it's
Do they
dark.
attack people? Is that common? thing?
What is a wallaby?
Wallaby's like a small kangaroo.
Oh,
Yeah. And big kangaroos are very mean. They like kick, they'll attack you. Like you got to be careful. So when I see these little guys, I'm like, oh gosh, like this
Yeah.
could be a problem.
3 little guys equal 1 big guy.
Are
And
they?
we're talking like hundreds.
Are they in the same area? Like, was there big kangaroos in the same walkabout?
Maybe I never saw any. I think this area was specifically more just the wallabies.
Gotcha.
But yeah, and I've done the walk a few times because I was like, that had to have been like just a once off, you
Yeah.
know. But no, it was like every time at dusk you could do it. You'd see echidnas, you'd see all kinds of stuff. Sometimes, you know, all kinds of little bugs. But yeah, the wallabies were the coolest. And,
do they eat kangaroo?
oh yeah, I've eaten kangaroo. Yeah, you can buy it in the supermarket.
What, wow.
Yeah,
Talking
What's it
about
taste like?
Australia here.
it's a bit gamey, but
Yeah.
nothing crazy.
We're okay with that here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we had some delicious pintail the day of our hunt.
Yeah.
We do have one of my all-time favorites, Andy. Andy, I want to say his last name. And
Andy Gap?
Yes.
SoCal.
The star of the
Representing.
veteran hunt video. And hopefully we'll see him shortly at the American Freedom Fighter dinner. Andy has a question. He wants actually some tips. I've seen him post on Facebook. I don't think he needs tips, but what tips do you have for late season stale birds motion?
Ooh. Yeah. I mean, I would go less decoys and
Yeah.
in motion.
At that point, they've just seen everything and
Yeah.
everything and everything.
I know if you're in like a wetland or whatever, kind of hiding the motion up closer to reeds and things like that, where it's like they're not flying around you and just staring at the motion the entire time, kind of hiding it, but you're still getting the ripples and things like that, or putting a motion decoy closer to something so they're just getting little bits and glimpses of it, not just honing in on it in the middle of the pond.
Yeah, sometimes I just pull. I mean, I don't think in the beginning of the season I make so few decoy changes, and by the end of the year I feel like I can't do anything right because those birds are just so educated. And you put it out, and you take it out, back in, and you put another one out, and you move it further, and it's just
Yeah, I would say would change almost like your calling and how you hunt, because the birds are a little stale. When you're calling, you kind of get their attention and hope that the motion that's kind of hiding gets them into to finish.
it's situational, but
Yeah.
try it until it works, and if it doesn't work, then just pull everything and move.
Yeah, because I mean, there's places where it's like, where birds want to be, right?
Yeah.
And they're always there. And as a hunter, you never want to do it, but it's like you're better off going to that spot and just sitting there and doing nothing, because the birds are going to come back in there. But as a hunter, you want to blow your duck call.
You want to act like you did it.
You got to put your decoys out, But in the scheme of things, it's like there's birds that are there.
Number
every
one
day.
rule of duck hunting: be where they want to be.
Yeah. So
Number one rule isn't put out your decoys and blow your duck call.
Be where they want to be, and that is probably something that's weather related as well as location.
yeah, I mean, in my opinion, a gray, cloudy dome sky, it's the hardest time to duck hunt. And a lot of people will think like, oh, it looks gloomy out, I want to go out to the duck blind. In my opinion, ducks can see extremely well in those sunlights, and they could pick you apart. Where like on a sunny day, in my opinion, they got the sun in their eyes, etc. You got shadows. You could hide in the shadows. To me, I've had a lot better decoying birds in sunny days with a little bit of a wind than any
Yeah, 100%.
huge storm day with clouds. I don't like a big ripping 20-mile-an-hour wind. Birds don't finish. My favorite is just sun with like a 5-mile-an-hour breeze to set the birds up. It's been some of my best hunts ever. So
Yeah. Fortunately, this year we dealt with a lot of gray skies, and I think that affected a lot of
Gray.
people in California, where it's just
Yeah.
gray.
gray and warm. I mean, the hardest thing with this duck season was like figuring out what to wear out there so we weren't sweating. It was just extremely warm and just
We had
gray.
like one little cold snap for like a week, and that was
Yeah,
it.
gray dome. Yeah. There was that one little cold snap. That was it. So
Andy followed this question up with wanting to know when the American Freedom Fighter dinner is. I am on the website, and it is March 23rd,
Sold
Andy.
out.
So we hope to see you in Lincoln.
been sold out for like 3 weeks, I think. So
I also have another question
we'll try to get you in, Andy.
from a gentleman named Elijah. Is hunting sandhill cranes a thing for us out in California?
No, not in our state. In other states, you can. Some of them you need a permit and whatnot. But yeah, we cannot shoot sandhill cranes in
Or
California
swans.
or swans. But yeah, other states you can.
What's the worst tasting duck?
That I've tasted.
It's whoever cooks it. It's the worst
That's true.
cook.
Yeah, I don't know. The Scoter was definitely like the gamiest duck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just cleaning that bird, like there's pellets just falling out, like never penetrated the feathers.
Ugh.
And you could smell the meat on the table. So usually when you could smell the meat after cleaning it,
It's not a good sign.
wasn't a good sign. That was a one-time trip for me. It was cool though. But yeah.
So, I don't know if there's the equivalent of this, and I'm just picturing Moby Dick with the white whale, but is there a duck that got away?
A duck that got
Is there
away.
one type of duck that maybe you just really wish that you could say you've gotten?
I have not shot a Eurasian widgeon.
Brian Huber's going to be happy about
I have
that.
not shot one, or I have never seen one while hunting either. I've seen them on the sides of the roads, at check stations, etc. But I do remember we were hunting on a guy's land after I grew up, and at this point, bands were like super rare, right? And I don't know who shot it, but at this point, I had not shot my first Canada goose yet, and I was shooting with 20 gauge. And you could see the pellets hitting them, but me and my dad were hunting, and I saw another bird go down, right? It was a goose, and we could not find it for our life, right? And then the landowner went out and found it dead the next morning, and it had a band, and it was like, wow. It was like, yeah, I'll turn it in for you guys, and we never got the band or the certificate.
Wow.
That's rough.
How about you?
There's 2 times that stick out in my mind, and both times I didn't have a gun in my hand. And the first one was the third year we ran late goose season at our Sanborn Slough property. I was helping guide the group that had won, and they were shooting geese, and we were sitting out in the wetlands, and there was ducks everywhere, and this group of widgeon flies around, and the guy that was with me goes, "Oh, there's a redhead in there." And I go, "That wasn't a redhead, that was a Eurasian widgeon," and he flew around us 10 times at like 15 yards, and it was after the season we couldn't shoot him, and I just watched that bird go around and around, and I still haven't shot one yet. And then this year I took a veteran out to our Quimby Island property and didn't have a gun in my hand. I'm not a veteran. I took him out to shoot, and a flock of mallards came in, and I don't know what it was. I think it was an Egyptian goose. I'm not completely sure. It was some sort of species or bird that we don't see here, or a hybrid of some sort, and it was clear as day because it was like a grayish white, and he didn't get the bird down. And both times I'm like, if it was during season and I had a gun, because it was, they both times presented great shots and couldn't do anything about it.
Well, I was probably 16 or so. I'm out in a boat by myself, and we're driving. I'm with the dog, right? I'm going to my hunting spot, and there was a bird that popped up like next to the boat. I was like, "What is that?" And it just kept diving down, and I was like, it looked like a sea duck, and I had no idea what it was. And I like had my gun, and like my instinct was like, "This is wrong. I'm not gonna shoot. I'm in the boat. Like this is just not sporting." The bird's like 10 yards from me. My dog's just going crazy. It's like, it's a diver. Go home. And then came back home and got my whatever North American book of ducks or whatever it was, and it was a hen scoter, like up in the mountains. You know? And I
Just
was
totally
like,
lost.
I was like, why didn't I shoot that? But looking back, I was like, that's just not ethical, you know.
Yeah, one of the ones I wish I had mounted. I was in Tule Lake in 1B, and I was by myself. It was super icy. Had opened up a hole in the ice, and I shot a really nice Drake canvasback, and it had been shot before through the bill, and it had healed up, and it was the perfect circle through the bill, completely healed. The bird was completely fine, and I thought about mounting it. I thought this would make a cool mount, and I just never did, and I still regret that to this day because it would have been so cool looking.
John joined us, and I'd like to give him a special shout out. And this is John from the Filthy Spoon podcast, who
What's up, John?
is an awesome advocate for CWA and always does his best to share what we have going on, and has actually been on our podcast.
Yep.
And, I think his podcast might be a little more colorful, but I wanted to say hello to John and thank you for joining us. I have to get you back on here again soon. All right, so let's see. What other questions from the Robot Verse do we have now?
Or the people listening,
Or
if you
the
guys want to
people.
type in your questions, feel free to do that.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of mounts?
I've gained more in the last few years. I don't know why. I just went through like a phase.
I have 2. That's it.
Total just waterfowl mounts? Or?
Yeah, one was I was with my buddy. It was one of our last hunts together before we moved to Wyoming. I shot like the biggest pintail I've ever seen in my life, and he took it and got it mounted for basically a wedding present for me. And then I have a blue goose.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
So I have a blue goose mounted because I shot one at Delvin. I never thought I'd shot one again, which I probably won't unless I go somewhere else. I have a pair of canvasbacks that I scotch doubled on. I have a mallard that I shot that was just giant. I have the first duck that I ever shot, which was a hen gadwall. And then I shot a hybrid mallard Muscovy duck that I have mounted.
Oh, you know what? I did get one of those mounted, and I gave it to the landowner.
Oh, you are so nice.
Yeah. Do you remember that? It was like a hermaphrodite mallard. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
It was like a he-she duck.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is it like half green and half brown or anything? Or
Yeah, it's got like a hen bill, and then it's got like a greenish-ish head. It's kind of trippy looking.
And you mounted it?
I did, and I mounted it, and the guy did a great job. And then I got the bill. I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Should have talked to this about
And I
before.
didn't have
beforehand.
anywhere to put it. And I was like, to the landlord, I was like, do you want to put this up in your clubhouse? Like, yeah, sure. So I wrote my name at the bottom of it. And there you go.
Yeah, I've got all my big game stuff mounted, but none of it's like shoulder mounts. It's all European stuff, so that takes up like half the stuff on my wall in my garage. But
Yeah.
I don't have any shoulder mounted big game stuff. I just have waterfowl mounts and then skull caps and Euro mounts for big game.
I don't know why I never got into it. Probably because I'm cheap and it's expensive. But
It's memories, dude.
well, my dad had like everything, in his office. Like,
I think it's cool if
all
you
that
have
stuff.
you have a space to look at it. I think it's cool if you have that space. People come in and look at it. It's cool.
yeah, and to me, it's like it's a memory, right? Like,
Oh, 100%. I remember
that's
all
why
the
people-
birds that I have mounted.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I have another question from a real person. This is from Eric, and thank you for asking, Eric. If you had to pick just one area in California to hunt long term, lease a blind or buy into a club, what area would you pick? And also, why would you pick it?
Ooh. You know what?
That is a great question.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go. I'm gonna go off the rails here, and I'm gonna say down in the grasslands. The consistency that some of those clubs have in shooting teal historically has been so good. Where a lot of the clubs or rice blinds up towards Sacramento Valley, you can be a lot more hit and miss. You can still be in good ones that are consistent.
Yeah.
It also has to do with budget, but I just feel like some of those grasslands areas have just once December rolls around, you're shooting limits of teal almost every day.
Yeah, there's definitely that, right? Gosh, my heart's in the northeast part of the state, right? Like that's where my heart is. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think the birds work way different up there.
But what's there to lease or to?
That's what's hard. Is
There's-
like
the
either
property
you,
isn't
well,
there.
if you buy the land, if
yeah,
you're talking about
give us a budget and we might be able to work with it.
Yeah, that's true. But like for $100,000, you could buy into a really really nice club in the grasslands and pay $3,000 to $5,000 in dues a year and
Smoke
shoot,
ducks.
and shoot 5+ bird average for the year and mostly teal. And the Butte Sink, you that goes up to $1 million potentially buy-in, and you're looking at anywhere from 30 to 60 grand a year. Rice blinds are getting more and more expensive, but
And those are hit and miss just as
yeah,
anything.
yeah. You see more ducks down here, like in a day, but like in the Northeast, you might only see, let's just say 50, 60, 100, 2,000 ducks a day, but they work better in my opinion. But there's a lot more variance in terms of if there's birds there or not. Like they're either there, like you go up to Alturas and just have like the best shooting you've ever had. Go up there the next weekend, you see like 15 ducks. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast up there.
Oh, 100%.
But down here, there's just more ducks in general.
You brought up something interesting, and I'm asking this question for a friend.
Yeah.
When you are married, and what I'm picking up in the world of duck hunting is that it's an incredibly expensive lifestyle.
It can be.
It can be, right?
Yeah.
And
Everything's expensive.
how do you have any best practices that my friend could use if they wanted to, really help get their wife on board with this this new endeavor that they might have an interest in?
Well, I'm got to have a budget,
You got to have a budget,
right?
okay?
You can go down in the numbers and brass tax it in terms of, hey, this is what I'm going to spend a year on the X hobby.
Take them out to experience it so they know what it's about. So
Yeah.
they're
It
not
helps
just
get the buy-in.
So
No,
they're not just
no,
in the
yeah.
blind about it.
Know why you're doing it and how it might complete you and make you a better person and all that thing, how you want to provide for your family.
Learn how to cook so they like the end product.
That definitely
that's
helps.
true,
The
yeah.
cooking part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with hunting, it's like anything. You could do golf, right? And you could do tennis. At some point, it's all expensive. Skiing. So unless you don't have a bunch of other expensive hobbies, you probably make it work.
I just figured, I know you have a few hobbies and they get pricey.
They do, but like
But you also get your kids involved in it, and I'm sure that is part of the selling.
there's that. I mean, to me,
But what are you going to do if you didn't do it? You do nothing. That's the
what
thing.
you're going to do something, right? You're going to go to Disneyland or whatever you might be. You might be into bowling. You're going to do something with your money. To me, majority of my greatest memories have been out in the field, out in the outdoors, doing something with people I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would tell my wife I'm going to join a karaoke league, and that might help push me towards hunting
oh really?
because I don't have the voice of an angel, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have another question here. I just thought, you'd get some advice for those of us that want to get our wife on board. I do think that making a delicious meal is certainly part
It
of
doesn't
it.
hurt.
That helped.
Yeah,
That
and-
hurt. That helped. Yeah.
I did take my wife out to the range, and getting her introduced into the world of firearms certainly helps build some excitement.
When I took my wife out for the first time, she still doesn't hunt, but she was able to understand it, which helped her understand what I was doing, which helped my cause in the end. Because I'd be like, oh, shoot time's over at 4:40. At 4:41, she's like, are you on your way home? I'm like, you don't understand this. So, like, just helping the understanding of what's actually going on, I think, goes a long ways.
Yeah.
Let's see. But a question that I always get. So this is from John, and I appreciate you again, John, for helping give us some stuff from the Filthy Spoon. Question I always get is, where is the best resource to find a blind to lease?
Oh, that's a tough
That's
one.
a good one.
John's got the questions.
Man, it is a network of people that you know, in my opinion. If you find something on social media, it's probably not the best blind, because the best blinds would be someone that's already in the club or whatnot. But either go directly to the manager, and if you're looking for a duck blind, the best time is to look during duck season and get on the list and start talking to those folks of what might be available. Or you have other people that, if I'm friends with Carson, he's got a blind, and hey, I would love to get in this spot if a spot opens up. And this my buddy bailed this year. You want it, and that's kind of how you get into it. It's like real estate, right? Some of the best properties never make it to the market, right?
Sure.
And that's just it.
Yeah,
So-
the two properties that I would spend my money to join. Luckily, I was lucky enough to join one via a friend, and the other one I was actually offered a spot in this last season because somebody had bowed out of their spot, and that spot was never flown on social media. It was just word of mouth, knowing the right people. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because the better spots are usually you have to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. But if you just want to get in, there's a couple of Facebook groups that put out blinds, and if you just want somewhere to go, and then hey,
and it's a start, right?
Yeah,
you just know what I tell people that are like, I got into a duck blind for the first time, and what I say is like, take it for what it is. It's a place that you can go whenever you want, but unless you want to pound your head on the blind, don't go there every single hunt day for 20
and expect limits
for 20 days out of the season and think you're gonna have the best season out of the year. Go when there's gonna be a successful hunt or whatever, learn it, but hunt the refuges and use that as a backup. I know a lot of guys that they hunt the refuges first, and as a backup they use their duck blind just because they know they have a place to go. But if you lease a duck blind, I've met hundreds of people that have do it. I had the worst duck season I've ever had. I hunted this blind 20 times. You're like, well, when were you hunting it? Oh, that stretch in the full moon, and when I took a week off vacation.
Yeah, gray
It's like,
skies, no wind.
okay, no matter how good a spot you have, it's not going to be that great of hunting during that time. So don't do that. But it's all expectations. My expectations are, if I can go out and shoot a bull sprig every time I go out, that is worth something to me. I can go out, I can shoot a bird, my dog gets some work, it's just me, back, gone. That might not be worth it for other folks, right? But if you can go out and see birds every time you're going out, shoot a goose or a couple geese, whatever it may be, that's worth something to somebody, right?
What's the weirdest dog breed you've seen duck hunting? I see the smile, so there's got to be a weird one. I saw a photo, and I'm personally a German Shepherd lover.
I don't know if it was like a blue tick hound or what it was, but it had the longest ears, and it was one of our people sent it in, and it was the coolest thing. He was like, oh, I got this great picture of my dog, and we opened it. I was a lab or whatever, forget a lot of those. And it's this big hound dog, in a dog vest, just
That's
like
awesome.
living it up. And I would have never thought that would be a duck dog, but people have German Shepherds.
I've seen that.
We've seen spaniels and
Poodle
big,
pointers
big
and-
poodles. I mean,
Yeah.
the poodles are the male poodles. They're a big dog. I don't think people
Yeah,
realize
like
that.
standard poodles.
Yeah, like they're
Yeah.
big and they're pretty aggressive as well. But yeah, we've seen some interesting stuff. Lots of like nowadays, like backyard breeder, like, oh, my dog is half lab, half whatever.
Yeah,
You
we're
could-
seeing a little more pointers too. The Griffons, the GSPs. That's kind of coming.
Oh yeah, they're so versatile. You know,
Any pit bulls?
I personally haven't on any of my hunts that
I
I've
know.
ran.
Yeah, I know of. Yes,
That's awesome.
I
Good for them.
haven't- Yeah.
It's all about
I
training
think
the
the
dog.
dog just comes and hangs out. I don't think it retrieves. But yeah,
Man's
my-
best friend.
Yeah, cousin's friend has one and brings the dog.
Nice. One of the ways you can meet people to learn more about leasing the duck blinds, per John's question, is being a CWA member and volunteering at our events or attending a dinner, right?
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's not what you know, but who you know.
The more people you know.
It's networking. That's with anything, right? And then if you're looking for stuff in the back of our magazine, there's advertisements for duck blinds and clubs all over the place. But if you're getting into a blind, just do your research. Know a little bit more about the area, where the close zones are. When we did the telemetry podcast, we know that birds don't travel very far from their close zones. So trying to get close to a close zone and all that is pretty important.
I'm gonna end this bad boy with one final question,
Okay. Jeez.
and I don't want any tears here. And we've had a few of them before, not from us, but
Carson, I
it
haven't
could
cried
happen.
yet.
Yeah, we're the host. We can't.
All right.
I got close, I think.
Last question, and I just want to thank everybody who has stuck it out and watched this feed live. It will be available, and we'll launch it in the regular style and format as well. If you guys like this process, we could certainly go forward and do this more often. Probably not every episode, but from time to time. We are going to do a live feedback question that we will prepare you guys 4 weeks in advance, where we will have, should I say, the new CEO possibly on there, Jake Messerly, as well as you two. Like to get Brian Huber on, and maybe even Vela, Mr. Kevin Vela, if there's any good turkey questions, so that people can ask basically any, and just an open forum. But my last question to wrap us up: if you could go duck hunting with one person in the world, alive or dead, who would it be?
Well, mine would be my brother and my dad, if that was my last hunt. Well, and now my son, so there'd be 4 people.
That is not the rule of this game.
Yeah, I'd probably just go my dad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, well, I have too
That's-
many people to pick from. So
Yeah.
I gotta feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger would be pretty awesome.
Arnold,
Yeah.
You,
can you shoot a
imagine?
shotgun?
I mean, he's got to be able to shoot. He's shot every other gun on camera, right?
Oh, well, just was the other day you figured out you couldn't
I
pump the
know.
gun without shooting
It
it first.
ruined my day.
Yeah.
That's all right.
You were
That's
like
all right.
looking forward to that, weren't you?
I was. I wanted to go out there in the duck blind, just like the Terminator 2 style, just end that bad boy off.
Yeah,
And
don't work.
it's
that
not
way.
even legit.
No, it's all
That's okay.
It's all fake.
He's still my hero. It's okay.
Yeah.
So, family?
family member.
Yeah,
yeah.
family.
That's to me why you go out.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it. I think you struck to the core of why duck hunting is more than just it's more than a hobby. It's more than a sport. It's a lifestyle. When people say I get addicted to duck hunting, I think it's because the memories, the experiences, the overall A to Z of duck hunting just hits you to your core, like
Yeah.
spending time with family, traditions, and it's just such a cool experience. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. And fishing or hunting, and every day is different. It's never the same day or the same results, right? And to me, that's fun and exciting.
that sounds like a work at CWA. Every single day is different. Stephanie didn't know she'd be showing up this work and be on live feed today.
This is true.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Way to go, Stephanie. Yeah.
To her point, no one did. Yeah. So, there we are.
Yeah. So I do want to remind everybody, please make sure if you can to always like the episodes, download them. Make sure you give us a follow. We really appreciate the support we get for Save It for the Blind. It is certainly become, I think, at least the 3 of us in this room's passion. It's a way for us to get the message that we have and the education out to a larger audience. And we would like to thank you all for continuing to help make us successful and to continue to listen to our content. If there is any content specifically that you have a desire to learn about or ask these guys about, please don't hesitate to put it in either the comments here. You can connect with us on social media. Myself or Stephanie is always on the other end, and we'd be happy to get those things on some future podcasts.
Cool. We appreciate it.
Well, this
Yeah.
is for Jeff, Stephanie, Carson, Brad, signing off.
Later.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Save It for the Blind podcast. You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.